Pan-African Payments and Settlement System (PAPS) launch in Ghana. It is projected to save continent $5 billion. Nigerians heave a sign of relief as price of cooking gas drops. Federal government deepens investment in vaccines production. On the program today, focus is turned to global economic prospects by the World Bank as it affects Nigeria. My name is Musa Abubakar and I welcome you to Business Express. It's good to have you join us. Now let's begin with AFCFTA. The much anticipated Pan-African Payments and Settlement System (PAPS) was officially launched in Accra, Ghana on Thursday, January 13th in a virtual event titled Connecting Payments, Accelerating Africa's Trade. The new approach allows a customer in one African country to pay in their own currency, while a seller in another country receives payment in their own currency. After a successful pilot in the West African Monetary Zone (WAMS), the payment system was launched commercially. Gambia, Ghana, Guinea, Liberia, Nigeria, and Sierra Leone make up the WAMS, West African Economic and Integration Organization. Ghana's President Nana Akufo-Addo, represented by the Vice President Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia, who hosted and presided over the commercial launch of the Pan-African Payments and Settlement System (PAPS), observed that the groundbreaking platform will save Africa more than $5 billion annually in payment transactions cost, while it plays an increasingly significant role in accelerating the continent's transactions. Is expected to boost inter-African trade by transforming and facilitating payment, clearing and settlement for cross-border trade across Africa. Now, meanwhile, the governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN, Godwin Emefiele, has said the newly launched Pan-African Payment and Settlement System (PAPS) will simplify cross-border trade, reduce the heavy dependence on the U.S. dollars, pounds, and euro intra-African trade. Emefiele said that on Thursday in Accra, Ghana, during the launch of PAPS, a cross-border financial market infrastructure enabling payment transactions across Africa, bridging trade challenges in a continent with over 41 known currencies. The CBN governor described the PAPS as a breakthrough achievement for the continent, saying it would help facilitate trade and enhance payment gateway across West Africa. The federal government's ₦4 billion intervention fund to the National Institute for Pharmaceutical Research and Development is to enable the agency manufacture vaccines locally in order to reduce a level of dependence on foreign countries.
That have been bought, like what we are told, about 90 pieces of equipment. Only a few have been installed, and we understand the power challenges. I know in the 2022 budget, working with the current Honorable Minister of Power, he had chosen 10 institutions where he's going to work this year to have dedicated off-grid power, that's solar.
Thank you, sir.
So discussing with him to see what we can do here to ensure that the equipment that have been bought do not go bad, especially since they require 24 hours power.
The thinking of this administration is that we'll provide interventions that will not only improve access to healthcare, but also stimulate socio-economic development. Places like job creation, capacity building, and revenue generation. Part of what this intervention has done for us is that we've been able to train thousands of herbal medicine practitioners. And if you train a herbal medicine practitioner, what do? First of all, is that you're helping the knowledge which he has received from his forefathers, right, become documented and become available in a manner that science has validated what those products are said to do.
Early this week, the World Bank, in its new Global Economic Prospects (GEP), lowered its global growth forecast to 4.1% for 2022. That's down 0.2% from the June GEP, and growth was 5.6% in 2021. World Bank Group President David Malpass, in a presentation, said the world economy is simultaneously facing COVID-19 inflation and policy uncertainty, with government spending and monetary policies in uncharted territory. Rising inequality and security challenges are particularly harmful for developing countries. Also, the World Bank forecasts show that Nigeria's economy is expected to grow by 2.5% in 2022 and 2.8% by 2023. It earlier projected 2.4% for 2022. Now, what has changed and what are the fundamentals before Nigeria? Joining me to discuss this is Professor John Alabi. He is the Dean Faculty of Management Sciences, Kogi State University, Ayigba, and President and Chairman, African Council for Small Business Entrepreneurship. You're welcome to Business Express, Professor Alabi.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me. Good afternoon, Nigerians.
Okay, what do you make of the revision of the Nigeria's projected GDP for the year 2022 by the World Bank?
Thank you very much. Essentially, the World Bank has projected, made their projections earlier in before, and there's a need for a revision. I want to say globally that the world economy is projected to grow at 4.1% in 2022. And in next year, world economy will grow by the GDP by 3.2%. The reason for this is not far-fetched. Going by three basic issues that have resurfaced itself. First is the resurgence in COVID-19 infections, the Omicron virus variant particularly, which is affecting the global economy. That is very, very one. And the second issue is the issue of supply chain bottlenecks, getting suppliers, getting activities to meet the deadlines that have been set. And of course, the rising inflationary trend across the world. These three reasons necessitated a revision of the earlier projection made by the World Bank. It is important also to note that in 2021, which just concluded, the world witnessed a growth of about 5.5%. Now, projections that followed the rebound of the economy after the COVID 2020 lockdown and thereabout is the one that has stated that, because when you have a rebound in our economy and suddenly a resurgence, we have what we call hard times. So there's a need for them to, as it were, review that projection. So the projection stated by those critical issues, because after the global slowdown, lockdown, and we have a rebound in 2020, economy grew by 5.5. But after that, the things we are seeing around the world now stated that, when you have problems after a rebound, then there's need for revision. So the revision is necessary by that. And the implication is very simple. It going to affect so many things. So that's the critical thing. So in the resurgence of COVID-19, of course, the supply chain bottleneck we have around, and the rising inflationary trend across the world. And don't forget, there is what we call vulnerability in the financial sector.
Okay.
It's very critical to have that. So these are the reasons that necessitated that. And the revision is necessary because we must move on to the next level. And that is very critical.
Okay, but then the World Bank downgraded its global forecast. What are the
Yeah.
implications?
Thank you very much. The implications are quite simple. Knowing the reason that necessitated the downgrading, then you must know that the effect is very, implication is very important. For instance, we are at home again with a resurgence of COVID-19 variants. So what that means is that it's going to affect economic activities. We may not witness significant lockdown as we witnessed in 2020, but it's going to affect economic activities because of the multifaceted effect. It's also important to know that inflation, if it keeps rising as where we are going, is going to also affect the economy. It is not just your local inflation, but important inflation because the world is a global village. It's also important to know that where you do not have financial access to financial funds because of the expenditure, all right, that is the critical one. So we know that that's also going to affect. The implication is very simple. One, there's going to be inflation, and that's has to be managed. Two, the debt itself is another thing, the debt burden. We're going to see that the incidence of debt burden is going to be high. Either we will start looking at opportunities, how we can lower our manage our debt. So the implication is that we must have a sustained debt management system so that we won't have a problem. It's also important to know that inequality is going to widen the more.
Okay, you talked about
the poor.
Professor Lab, you talked about international inflation, is it?
Yeah.
Okay. What
yes,
other factors are likely global developments are likely to affect the Nigerian economy this year?
Yes. You know very well that the Nigerian economy is largely still import dependent. We still get largely our foreign exchange from other crude oil or commodity exports. Where trade activities are not in high gear, the likelihood of our foreign exchange trickling in from becomes lower. That is why we are leveraging our AFTA. Let's trade among ourselves in Africa. But if we still depend strongly on external sources of foreign exchange, it's going to affect us. And you know what that means to our budget. Another area is the debt itself I'm talking about. We are in trillions indebted now. If we do not, that is going to affect us. Why? Number one, our economic recovery process. We have gone out of recession, but there's a likelihood that our ability to manage our current situation will become very hard because of the debt burden.
Okay.
The other effect I see likely is if we don't manage the economic, there's likely to go to slide into recession. Well, it may not be too high, but I'm talking of 10 to 20% likelihood of the economy going back to recession if we don't manage the growth trajectory.
How do we manage the growth projection?
Income gap between the rich and the poor.
How do we manage the growth projection?
Yes, critically, I'm looking at number one for Nigeria. You know, we are going again to an election year. There's a likelihood for expenditure on political activity to increase. So I'm looking at diversification in real terms of our resource base, looking more into fiscal aspect, that is taxation. Those who have enough resources, let us look at taxation, widen the gap and manage is very, very important. It's very important to also to expand our revenue base and look at areas we can cut down. Expenditure management, where it is necessary, we must not only reduce, but we must also do it with some expenses. It's very, very critical. If we don't do that, in an election year where you have to spend more money on political activities and you have dwindling resources, with the effect we have, then we're going to have a problem. So my take is we require one to diversify our economy base, look for more opportunities in the areas of fiscal policies, taxation. Our MDAs and our leakages must be blocked, expenditure management, number two. And of course, our debt portfolio should also be looked at. These are critical areas. If we don't do this, we're going to have major challenges. And this is the socio-economic effect also can come in, where you have inflation, where you have unemployment, where, of course, you have aggressiveness. So we must be ready, particularly in the election year, and we are also preparing to deregulate the economy.
Okay. Okay, so, Professor Olabi, before I let you go, the federal government and the CBN are having a higher growth projections than both the World Bank and IMF. Why so? And what are the areas of convergence?
Yes, thank you very much. I see the reason for the diversity between the government and the World Bank had to do with the data we have as regards our recovery rate. It is believed that we have exited recession, yes. It is believed that our growth trajectory, based on what we have done in the past, are bright, fantastic. But we can still see visibly from the World Bank projection that inflation in this country is still high. Our debt burden is high, unemployment is still high. Therefore, my area is that where our fundamental or basic assumption used for the economy differs is because they are looking at Africa and sub-Saharan Africa in globality. But areas of convergence essentially have to be our income, our expenditure management, and our debt. We must go back to the drawing board and assess what are those expected revenues, and are we going to meet it? Number two is they are also concerned about the high rate of corruption in sub-Saharan Africa. That when you make projections, there's areas for corruption that are not always taken care of. The other one is financial discipline. It is believed that we may have budgetary projections that are fantastically laid down, but in real sense of it, when it comes to articulation and implementation, we fall short of that. There is gross financial indiscipline in Africa, and there are leakages. So these are areas we do not want to play to the gallery that everything will be fine. But I'm just cautioning that our economic planners and implementers must take note of this revision so that we can rethink our budget as we go along, while we are widening our revenue base and we're tightening our financial expenditures. We are also looking at area of leakages, such that where we are making progress, we deepen it, and where we're not. I want us to warn also that this is a financial year. We're going to have huge expenditure, so we must manage the economy very well.
Okay, thank you very much, Professor John Alabi, Dean, Faculty of Management Sciences, Kogi State University.
It's a pleasure having you. Thank you very much for having me.
Okay. Now moving on, the Nigeria LNG Limited says that its board of directors had approved the supply of 100% of the liquefied petroleum gas, butane and propane produced by the company to the Nigerian market. This is coming as Nigerians spent months buying cooking gas at exorbitant rates. The NLNG said in a statement that it will prioritize the domestic market for 100% of its butane and also known as cooking gas production. The company said it had developed a scheme to sustainably supply propane for usage in cooking gas blending as well as in agro-allied, auto gas, power and petrochemical sectors of the Nigerian economy to further deepen gas utilization. Well, following the recent announcement on reduction in price of cooking gas by the federal government, buyers in Imo State say a more intensified effort will crash the price of the product. Raina Obasi, who has been monitoring the situation, has details.
Towards the end of 2021, Nigerians woke up to shocking hike in the price of liquefied petroleum gas, also known as cooking gas. The increase from 300 to between 700 and 800 naira per kilo raised concerns among users who could not understand the reasons behind the exorbitant price of the product, which led to many resorting to alternative sources of cooking. The recent declaration by the federal government on reduction in the price from $2.50 to $2.18 per kilo has, however, made a mark. A visit to some gas stations in Owerri reveals that dealers are complying with the new price as declared, as they now sell for between 680 and 696 naira per kilo, as against the former price of 800 naira per kilo.
With the price we bought the gas the last time, we are selling 680. Maybe when we make our new purchase, I believe the price will come down more.
Some of the consumers commended the federal government for the slight reduction, stating that it has brought relief to them.
I'm happy about it. Let the government do more. Look at our children in the school, in the university. Most of them are using gas. And the little money you give them as a stipend, they use it in buying gas, which is very exorbitant, putting pressure on parents.
That difference of 500 naira, I can use it to buy about 2-3 cups of gari, which is an added advantage to my family.
At least it's a relief.
As the year is just beginning, it is the hope of the people that other steps will be taken to make the price of cooking gas more affordable.
And that will let us take a trip to the commodities market. The Nigerian Exchange Group, we go next to the trading floor where activities for the week have come to a close. Stocks lost steam but are closing out the week better than how they began. The all-share index dropped against Thursday's numbers to 44,454.67 points. 405 million shares were traded in 3,880 deals and value at 9,697 billion naira. Equities capitalization ended the week at 23.951 trillion naira. Now, global market update is next with Ineka Oko.
Stocks in Japan and South Korea recorded losses in major Asia-Pacific markets on Friday as the recent rally in U.S. stocks broke momentum with the Nasdaq Composite snapping a 3-day winning streak. Japan's Nikkei 225 fell 1.28% to close at 28,124.28, while the Hong Kong's Hang Seng Index fell 0.19% in the final hour of trade. Mainland Chinese stocks also struggled for direction as the Shanghai Composite declined nearly 1% to 3,521.26. European stocks pulled back on Friday following global momentum as fresh round of hawkish comments from Federal Reserve officials resurfaced expectations for imminent policy tightening. Japanese DAX fell 0.72% with London's FTSE shedding 0.1%, while France's CAC 40 slipped 0.76%. U.S. stock futures rose during early morning trading ahead of earnings from the major banks. Futures contracts tied to the Dow Jones Industrial Average advanced 74 points. S&P 500 was up 0.15%, while Nasdaq 100 also rose 0.15%. African markets traded mixed in early deals with South Africa's JSE Africa Top 40 leading losses at 0.86%, while Tunisia's Tonidex and Ghana's GSE Composite both posted gains.
Thank you, Neka Oko. Business Express returns Monday. I am Musa Abubakar. Enjoy the weekend.